Are you ready to make some free quilts? We're talking about fabric that is either free or next to nothing to purchase, and I'm going to show you how this works. We are going to take this acquired fabric and combine it with our fabric that we already have, our scraps and our stash, and we might get a little creative with our fabric combinations, but we are going to make some beautiful quilts. I'm Louise from Inspired Quilting by Louise, and I want to show you a few secrets that I use to expand my fabric collection and to get some interesting ideas with my fabric and mixing it up a little bit so everything doesn't always look the same. And I want to take you on this journey with me. I think you're going to love it. So let's get started. I'm ready to do some quilting. When I'm out and about and I happen to go by a thrift store, in this case it was Goodwill, I will run in and check out the linens, the sheets, the comforters, the bedding, those kinds of items, and find what they have. Well, oh my gosh, I did great just a week or so ago. And you can see here, I spent $12. The small pieces are all $1.99, and the large piece, which is really large, was $2.99. So I got a great deal on all of these. Now, and it even all matches for the most part, which is fantastic. So here's a baby's crib fitted sheet, $1.99. It's a beautiful, nice cotton. I think it'll be wonderful to work with. And this is another crib sheet, and they seem to be cotton as far as I can tell. They certainly look like it to me. And so these will be great to quilt with. And then I have these little receiving blankets, and you can see on here, 100% cotton. So, and they're like a brushed cotton. So my idea with these kinds of fabrics is rag quilts, because you can layer, cut, piece all these together, cut up the edges, and get some wonderful frayed pieces. But the other thing I want to do with these is make the French rose blocks. I'm going to put a link for that up above. I love making these, and you can do it out of flannel, cotton, any kind of fabric that will ravel, and that's primarily a cotton fabric. Poly blends won't, but you can still use some of the fleece fabrics. And while they won't actually fray, they'll get a little curl, and that's fun too. So here are these 4 pieces. I'm really excited. So this is quite a few yards of fabric. And then here is a full-size sheet for $2.99. And it might be percale. I haven't found the tag yet, whether it's 100% cotton or not. But I can use this for a quilt back very easily. And I'm not always particular that everything have to be, 100% cotton when I'm mixing. So if I'm mixing fabrics in a quilt that are some polycotton, some are cotton, that's okay, as long as I know going into it what I'm dealing with, because then I can put it all together in one quilt and it's going to work fine. And I really, really am excited about this particular group of fabrics. And I have more fabrics that I'm going to be showing later that are also in the pink group that are going to be perfect for these roses. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to get started on that. But the key here is that we find these odds and ends of fabrics. We want to be able to use them with other things. These are to sort of enhance what we already have. So if you have a lot of stash fabric, scrap fabric that you've put aside, pull it out and take a look at it. Make sure that it's in a place that you can access it. Because if you can get your hands on it, you're more apt to use it. Let me show you what I mean. I know I've talked about this before, but I buy lots of fat quarters. And instead of buying 1 yard, well, say 2 yards of fabric, I would rather buy 8 fat quarters. It might cost a little bit more, but if I buy it on sale and I'm really careful about what I'm selecting, then I can get a lot more variety. And you can check the video out where I show you how I cut my fat quarters, but I'll get 5-inch squares, I'll get 10-inch squares, I'll even cut 5-inch strips. And so I'll cut out some 5-inch squares and a second row with just the strip. And I can use this later to cut it into charms, or I can cut it into 2.5-inch jelly rolls. So that gives me a lot of flexibility. And then when I'm done cutting my fat quarter, I end up with a 3 or 4 piece at the end. And then these are those multiple strips. Having this fabric within reach makes it accessible and more likely that I'm going to use it. I can come in, I can look through and say, oh, I'm looking for these particular colors. I want brights, I want greens, I want whatever the case may be. And then this is the dollar store basket. I think they're up to $1.25 now. But this is perfect. I get my 5-inch, I get my strips, and this holds a lot of fabric. So when I get my pinks like this, I can start going together and say, oh, look, I have some more. Oh, look, this, I've got that, I've got this. So I can, start putting those together and then think, okay, there's some gold. Oh, that's actually a little olive green. That might look pretty in there. Bring in some chartreuse to brighten it up. And so by the time you add some of these other fabrics, you've got a totally new collection of fabrics to work with, and you're going to have a gorgeous quilt. For me, more is better. More color, more pattern, more design, as long as it all fits in a basic scheme, and you're the one that sets that scheme. You're the one that decides what you want, what you like, and that's what you quilt. So there we are. Now, there is one other thing that I do as well. So I keep my stash of fat quarters regularly stocked because I do a lot of quilting and I go through a lot of fabric. And with that being said, a lot of you have seen I show my monthly fat quarter shop collection that I get each month. So I get the batik, the Bali Batik fat quarters on a monthly basis, and it's 12 different fat quarters in a, there we go, I couldn't open it, in a coordinated color group. And I love getting these each month. Oh my goodness, look at these. Aren't those beautiful? Look at those blues and greens. They are so pretty. Now, this costs me $40 for 3 yards of fabric. And while that may be more expensive than what you want to pay or you can get at the discount store, when I'm paying $12 here and I can pay a little bit extra here, I get more volume. And having that larger variety of fabric is really important to me because I love making quilts with lots of different fabrics. That's just sort of what I do. So look at, we've got the lights, and what's nice is you get the variants. You get the lights, the mediums, and the darks. And that's going to help you create an even more beautiful quilt because you're going to have contrast. You're going to have contrast in color. You're going to have contrast in size. You have small designs. You have large designs. And all those things make a difference. This is sort of an almost solid, but yet it has that watercolor effect. I love these sunflowers. I use them in every color I can possibly find. I just think they're beautiful. Now, this rose fabric, I've seen it in here in 3 different colors, but you have them side by side. You're not necessarily going to know that. And they just work beautifully to engage your eye with lots of different color, and it creates so much interest. And then we have some more small prints, and here's some more little speckles. They look like raindrops. But see, now we're getting into some green. So we had light green. We went through the blues. We now are combining blues and greens together and get into some darker greens. So this is where I count on getting a good collection of fabrics in a variety of colors that will work well together, that I can add more fabrics to. And I find that incredibly productive for me. So that's my second step. First, buy it cheap wherever you can get it. And we're talking about thrift stores. And we're talking about secondhand shops, yard sales, things like that, places where, they're going to be selling things to get rid of it, and then therefore it's going to be quite a bit cheaper. But now I want to show you how to get other fabric. Let your friends know that you quilt. Let people know that you sew. Let them know that you like collecting scraps. And maybe show them, or, say, hey, here's some of my scrappy potholders I love to make, and this, that, and the other, whatever the conversation may be. And they'll keep you in mind the next time either they have some leftover scraps or they know somebody who does. Let me show you the find I received from a very dear friend who knows that I quilt. I just wanted to share this wonderful gift I received from a friend, and she was given a big bag of fabric, and realizing that a lot of it could be used for quilting, she thought of me. How awesome is that? And so she gave me this big bag right here. And this, I've pretty much gone through it. This has a lot of polyester and what do I want to say, sports things that I'm probably not going to use. So I will pass this along to somebody. But I wanted to show you some of the fun fabric that was in here. And none of this was necessarily grouped the way I have it. It was just all individual pieces. So as I'm taking it out, when I'm working with fabrics, I kind of put things that go together. So it'll maybe prompt an idea of what to do with it. The first piece I found was this, and then I found the yellow, and then the turquoise, and these just all sort of really work well together. And there's, some of these are maybe a half yard, others are pieces left over from something that will need to be trimmed, and then this is probably the better part of a yard. So there's a lot here that I think can work together as a quilt, and I think they're really pretty. I like this color blend. It just looks really nice, and it's kind of springy. So that was a fun one. This one really got me excited. I opened this, and there's got to be a couple yards of this fabric here, and this is 50 inches wide. So it can either be a backing of maybe like a baby quilt or something, or for a little girl. But there was this pretty pink daisy and some off-whites and creams, and this has sort of a stripe pattern in it, and some whites and pink. So I thought that would look really nice. I had pulled these, but this was a bit bright with all that. But that doesn't mean it can't be used somewhere else. So that was fun to find. But then this, sometimes it's hard for me to think of boys and men and what to pull together, but there's yardage. Basically it's like shirting, but it's all cotton. And some of these, I know that's at least a yard. This is probably 2 yards. Oh, wait, are there multiple fabrics? Oh, look at this. No, it's probably closer to a yard, but there's, look at with the sailboats. Oh my goodness, this is a perfect group of fabrics. I did not even see that. I just thought, oh, wow, a lot of fabric. And so some of these are already in here. I recognize this one, but these are not. These are marked as fat quarters. And so those haven't been touched yet. Then I found the solids. And I wasn't going to, really pull other colors. This is sort of pinky, so that's iffy, but I liked it in there. This blue came up, and I didn't like that in there at all, so I set that aside. But then I started getting these nice deep reds. See how we've got that red in here? That little bit of a red stripe. And look at just how bright. I mean, talk about a dynamic contrast. I love it. So this may be kind of a direction for a particular quilt as well, especially with all those fun prints. And then here are some pieces that were cut. The quilter obviously liked 8-inch squares, or was working on a particular 8-inch square pattern, because there's a lot of these 8-inch pieces in here. So that's wonderful. I mean, to be able to get a group of fabrics that you can put an entire quilt together with is fantastic. I mean, my goodness, this is such a generous gift, and I'm so excited about it. And so these are just some odds and ends. I like the black check. Here are some good solids. And again, a lot of these solids are cut into 8-inch squares. So that was something she liked. Here's a pretty little peach color. And again, these. And blacks are always good to have, especially when it has other colors in it. If you saw the last quilt actually that I made, it was called Scrappy Rectangles. It's also known as the potato chip block. And this would have been great in there because I used some black and white fabrics. So that's fun. And I already showed you this one. These are polyester, but they're really nice. And they're nice top weights. So for making, spring or summer tops, and this is sort of a dotted Swiss, but they both have textures on top that I really like for that fabric. So I have a friend who makes a lot of her own clothes, and I will definitely forward that to her. This is one that I found and really enjoyed. And check this out. Quilt cut pieces. So there's going to be some fun things in here. And I do have to show you this. This has a special story for me. This here is the 8-inch quilt block collection. So she was obviously working on a scrappy patchwork. And I love the way she did the strips. But what's fun is if you come back here into the back, she cut 8-inch pieces out of a lot of her fabrics. And this is a pieced one. Okay, I know there were some. Oh, see how this is pieced. But when you look at it, they look so good together. Here we go. These are the ones that are cut and not sewn. But because there's all these strips in here, it makes it perfect to go along with these other stripped sewn pieces. And I can't help but wonder if she wasn't, because there's so many of these, that she wasn't going to do like an alternating block. There's some pieces here where she would alternate the sewn strip pieces together with some of the others, that she had already cut in whole fabrics. So there's a lot of these strips left over. And so I'd kind of like to finish this quilt in the same idea she had planned for it. And like I said, again, there's some sport stuff that I won't include, but there's just some great fabrics and some fun ideas that she was going with. Oh my goodness, the bowling. And the pink dots were a particular favorite. And then there's just some other odds and ends of more of the same. So there's more than enough here to make a quilt. And then whatever's left over, just do cross cuts like this and make patchwork. So there are a lot of options here and a lot of fabric. Oh my goodness, this is just incredible. I'm so excited about it. But I do need to share a little story about this. This is the only piece in here. And isn't it always that little piece amongst everything else that always catches your eye particularly well? And if you've seen me quilt a lot, I love pinks and greens. And I have a Christmas quilt that I did with pinks and greens, and then a Valentine's, both done in charm squares and kind of scrappy layouts. And I'll put those links above because you can do it in any colorway, but they're great for using small pieces of fabric. And I love this colorway. So I'm going to hang on to this because I know it's something that I really like. And there's multiple shades of some greens and pinks and cream. And the next time I, want to go shopping for maybe a floral or something like that, I'll take this with me to remind myself, this is what I want to get. I want to stay within this colorway and make a quilt like that. So that's kind of a fun thing, but look at all these wonderful fabrics. Oh my goodness, I have so much that I can do, and I am so grateful for this. And and the last one I almost forgot. This is probably like, it's just regular cotton. I would have thought it was upholstery, but it doesn't feel like it. And while it's a bit bigger than a lot of what I use, there are a lot of times in the center of a quilt, like if I'm doing, the French rose quilts. Oh my goodness. I'll link that above too because that is fantastic. I love putting a flower in the center because then it gives you the idea of a flower blooming and it's just wonderful. So I will definitely use a lot of these kind of fussy cut out what I want today. This was just a little sort of segue to show you how you can take a group of who knows what and make some really wonderful quilt plans or quilt layouts or color combinations. And, you know, you just start piling it together and see what colors you like. It doesn't have to be a specific colorway. And you never know, you may find a new color grouping or pairing or collection that you find out you really like and you didn't even know it. So don't miss a great opportunity. Just one bag of gifted scrap fabric, and I have a beautiful blue quilt that I can make. I have an adorable, pretty little pink flower rosy quilt that I can make. And I have this fantastic group of colors that I think they'll just be wonderful. I'm really excited about this. And my goodness, this scrappy strip piece quilt with the 8-inch squares. I've got 4 quilts that I can make. And it's all set. The fabric's here. It's ready to go. I am so excited. I'm so glad I could share this with you. I really want to emphasize to you that you can use everything you have. You can use whatever you find, put it together, and make a quilt. Thanks so much for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day. It's been my pleasure to share this with you.